Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to go through some Dwarf Fortress world generation. Now, we're not going to do generation the way that you normally go through and do a create a new world and mess with the sliders. We're actually going to design a new world with the advanced parameters. Now, a good place to get all the information you need on world generation is on the Dwarf Fortress wiki. The base world generation is updated for 43.05, and it goes through all the slider options that you'll have when you go and do the create new world. As far as whether you're going to do a pocket, small, medium, or large, your history, you don't really have a lot of control over these. You just have a slider option of 1, 2, 3, so forth and so on. Now, what you really want to do is, read this because it does give you a lot of good information about world generation. But what you're going to want to do is going to want to come down to the getting more advanced. And you want to go to the advanced world generation. Now, it says that it's for 42.06, but I don't think that the world generation algorithm itself has really changed all that much. So you should be fine with what's presented here for knowing what each one is supposed to be. So we'll come over here and we're going to design the new world with advanced parameters, and we'll go in here. Now, I already have a alpha of Dwarf Fortress. I already have a world that I was using for this, but I'm going to go ahead and delete it, and we're going to start over. Now, what I strongly suggest for anyone doing this is that you start with something like, let's do a small region, but you don't edit this one specifically. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to come over and do a copy, so C. And as you can tell, it puts it at the bottom. Now, I don't like small region. I want it to be a little bit more descriptive for me. So I'm going to come over and I'm going to press T, and that changes it to where I can modify it, and I'm just going to do YouTube tutorial. And I press enter. And as you can see, it changed it here, and it also changed up in the top left here, and it says YouTube tutorial. Now, it's saying that the seed is completely random and that your names are going to be random. Well, let's go in and edit that a little bit. Now, I want my world, the geography of it, I would like for it to be random. I don't want it to be the same thing over and over again. However, the naming seed or the history seed or the creature seed, I'm really not that fussed about it being the same each time. So using the parameters that I have from previous, I'm going to use the history seed, the name seed, and the creature seed. We're going to go ahead and enter these in. Now, I'm not going to go through and tell you that it's an uppercase or lowercase. I'm just going to go through and put them in. Now, I selected the field that I wanted using the, let me go back into that, using the up and down arrow keys. And then I pressed enter to enter the text, and this one is going to be 3 US 3 QWZM, or by, let's take that U out, PW 74 BZN8. And then I think that I'm actually only going to use the creature seed off of it as well. 8JIM, because we have a Jim. I used to know a Jim. He was a cool kid. He played drums back in high school and was pretty darn good at it. WJIFWYAPRE. Okay, so those are the only two that I'm actually going to change. Now, you'll notice that it says here, use creature seed, and it says random. By pressing either 4 or 6, it will toggle between the two options of yes or random. So for those two, the history seed and the creature seed, I want those to say yes. The other two are going to remain random. Now again, I prefer a shorter time for creation, so I do 125 years. And then I'm going to change the population cap after civilization creation to 5,000. There's not going to be that many people of anybody around after 125 years. It's still a fresh world. We're not going to do anything as far as have a lot of intelligent creatures or non-sentient creatures around, so 5,000 is a good number. Now I also changed the percentage of beasts dead to 70 because again it's a relatively new world. We're not going to have that many random things happen that will destroy creatures. And then I leave pretty much everything else alone, especially the elevation, because again we're doing a smaller region. Don't really need to have the highs and the lows that will generate the varying areas that you would when you're doing a larger world. Again, I'm going to leave the rainfall and the temperature and the drainage all alone. Depending upon how this video is received, I will likely come back and do a follow-up to where we go in and edit the world_gen.txt file by hand, whether that's by Notepad, Notepad++, Emacs, V, Gedit, Kate, whatever your editor of choice is. And then from there we can also look at editing it in Perfect World itself. And then you can also look at using Perfect World to generate your land. And then another video could be how to use a grayscale height map to not only import known lands such as the UK or Sri Lanka, which you may have seen that I have done, but also how to generate your own, to make your own completely unique map, or even import in something from, say, Asheron's Call or Game of Thrones or anything like that. So I'm going to use leave all my volcanisms and mesh sizes alone because, again, that's outside the scope of this first video. It's more of an exploratory than anything else. Now, the one thing that I will change, I'm not going to change the minimum mountain peak number here. I'm going to leave that at 3. Again, it's a small area, so I'm not that fussed about it. But as you can see, it says minimum partial edge oceans. Now what that means is I can come in here and I'm going to use 4 to change this to 4. That makes this an island now. If I use 3, it makes it a peninsula. If I use 2, then it means it can have water on either side, like say the middle of Florida, but it doesn't mean that it can't still be a peninsula or an island. It's just that it's going to start with at least 2 edges of the land connected to an ocean. So the next thing I'm going to come in and do is I do like to have a little bit more volcanoes. So I'm going to change this to 3. Again, it's a small area, so I don't want to have too many mountains or too many volcanoes, but I like volcanoes. Now, I leave my mineral scarcity alone, even though since it is going to be a relatively new world, 125 years, we could theoretically fudge those numbers down some to have more minerals, but I pretty much just leave it alone. Figure that I'm going to have what I have, and it will make the game a little more challenging, or maybe not. Now, the next thing that you have is your max megabeast caves. If you want a more challenging map, you can certainly adjust your megabeast cave, your semi-megabeast, your titan number. You can change the requirements for a titan attack to occur. You can change your demon types, more or less, troll types. your boogeyman types, your vampire curse types, your werebeast curse types, which, funny story, my eldest daughter actually had a were-giraffe in her game the last time. I had never seen a were-giraffe. That must have been a painful transformation. You have your secret types, your regional interaction types, your disturbance interaction types, and again, these you will have to go and read the wiki on what these actually are. I really don't know. Leave them alone. I do not like to mess with the evil cloud or evil rain type. I do not mess with the generate divine materials. I leave all my good squares alone, but I do change the evil square count. I'll do, for this one, about 15 for the small, and I will raise the medium to about 75, and then about 150 for the large. It gives me a little bit more of a challenge. It gives me a little bit more haunted and terrifying areas, and increases the evil races count a little bit more. Now, if you are looking for more of a, if you wanted like a forested island or a forested area only, you can remove the minimum initial wetland squares. Your desert squares, you can increase your forest square count and reduce your mountain square type count, and you will get a area that is pretty much just a forest. These are what you will want to edit to vary what type of area you have. For example, if I don't want to have a desert, if I'm doing something, say, akin to Florida, there's not really a desert in the middle of Florida. So I can remove this to 0. That doesn't mean that I won't have a desert, but it does reduce the likelihood of having a desert in that area. Again, you can have everything from the initial oceans, glaciers, tundras, grasslands, your hills. So, I mean, it's something that you can go through and really fine-tune how your world will look. I leave the erosion cycle count alone, as well as your minimum rivers and desired rivers. If I wanted to keep the extreme cliffs, I could turn this off. I don't think that I really care. Maybe one day I'll play around with that and see exactly what I get. It can possibly be some interesting stuff. And then, again, I just go through and leave everything else alone. The main thing that I really mess with is the evil squares. Now, there are going to be 10 civilizations. That's unique races. Actually, it may not be unique races. It may just be 10 sentient groups. So you could have 2 goblin civilizations that war against each other. The one thing to never really change, unless you don't care if you have a world that you can play or not, is the playable civilization required. If you turn this off of yes and turn it to no, you may very well generate a world that you can only spectate in, which you might get some interesting stories. And if I were going to do that, I would make it a lot longer in the number of years for the history generation, but you don't get to have any of the fun of going in and drinking beer and killing zombies, especially zombie yaks or ghosts, although ghost dwarfs are pretty bad. Alright, so we're going to go through, and again, we're back at the beginning. So we're going to go out. I pressed escape, and now I'm going to press F6 to save and to make sure I escape. Now we are going to go back in to the design new world with advanced parameters, and we are going to check the YouTube tutorial, and we're going to go in, and you can see right off the bat we've got a pretty healthy contingent of evil here. We got a lot of purple. A lot of purple. I see some humans. Let's take a little gander. Oh, we got a couple volcanoes down here near each other, which is not necessarily good, but it's not bad. Oh, look at the dwarf contingent up here. Although we have a couple towers in here. Ooh, that might be fun to go visit as a adventure mode. The Dwarven Tower of Zuglarkor and the Dwarven Tower of Testrad Likocht. Blah. So let's see what else we might have in here. This is actually a relatively small little area. Oh, there's the other volcano. It's down in the ice. Might actually not be a bad place to try and start. So we're going to accept it. And then I'm going to come back in and generate one more just to show you that the land does change because we are using the random seed. But the names and the creatures are going to remain the same. So we will create a new world with advanced parameters one more time. And do the YouTube tutorial. And there we go. We got a little bit more frozen. Looks like we've got an evil ocean below us. Got a volcano right there in the middle of the mountains. Well, not really in the middle, but close enough. You got another volcano up on the left. So this might be another good world to go and play. We don't seem to have as much evil, but we do have some. We got a volcano here. This is the Youthful Continents, and this is the Horn of Points. And then we've got more Horn of Points. And then we're on the Maroon Prairies. And this one is called the Unthinkable Barbs. It's actually got some good names. So we're going to accept it. Now, before we have to end this video, we're going to go and do a quick fortress start and see exactly what we have. So we're going to start playing. Now I'm actually going to use that last one. See exactly what we've got. And here we go, we're going through granite. And 2 weeks have passed. And here we are. Now I want this volcano up here. We've got a river near it. We're in calm. We've got some clay. Oh, we don't have clay here. We need to go pretty far to get clay. Not too far. I can extend that out. I can do that. I can do a... What are we? 1, 2, 3, 4, a 5 by 4. I can do that. Got a pretty good computer. But there's no trees, and it's haunted. That can be a little fun. I would like to have some trees, though. 'Cause, yeah, beds. That's one reason to have trees. And you know what? It's not showing any of the other stuff. Maybe we'll just go and see what else we can't find. And down here we're in the Ocean of Grieving. Got an aquifer, flux stone. Very deep soil, shallow metals, flux, deep metals, sand. This has clay. This does not. I think we'll take this and just call it done. Although we are cold. And it's a temperate freshwater marsh, so it's going to be relatively flat. So we are going to embark and I'm just going to do one of the easy starts, and we're gonna see what we have. We have 116 points because the hold on one second, because the plans or whatnot, the arrangements were not finished. So we're going to come in and see what all we have. And it looks like we've got pretty much a good selection of things. I do not see a an anvil. I don't see an anvil. No anvil. That's going to be problematic. I'm going to have to look at trading for one of those, I think. Type in parts of the name. Well, there's no anvils in this. Okay, so we're going to have 116 points, and what are we going to pick up? Let's get some more alpaca milk. I have no idea how that tastes. Glad it's my dwarves figuring it out and not me. We have 5 female dogs and 1 male dog. Oh, we got a hunting dog. And we now have 5 female cats. That gives us 70 points left over. 1 ewe and 1 ram. I think we need a little more. Okay, so we have 19 points left. We have 6 hens, 2 ducks, 4 turkey hens. You know what? I can hear you guys yelling at me not to do the bunnies. We're doing the bunnies. Okay. We're going to embark from here. My sound sense should fire off. Ooh, I have the sounds muted. There we go.
We've reached the embarkment zone. This had better be worth it.
Let's turn down the sound sense a little bit more so that we can all hear. Alrighty. Here we go. Oh, let's pause it. So again, you can see, just like regular Dwarf Fortress, we've got our world. It is relatively flat, and it is all ice, and it is, of course, a rather tremendous snowstorm. Now, what I'll do when I play this game is I'll go ahead and dig into the little mountainside here, which is not much of a mountain, and start setting up my areas of living and see what we can't do with it. But as far as this video is concerned, let's turn down Dwarf Fortress too. It got kind of loud. Oh, I see why. It's my speakers. It's not this. Okay. So, what we'll do from here is we'll just call this video completion and move on from here. Again, if there's more desire, I will continue on with editing the world gen file by hand using a text editor, and then using Perfect World, then using Perfect World to generate your world, and also using height maps to make your own worlds. And hopefully this has been useful, and we'll see you guys later.